Okay. So, good morning. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. It is Thursday morning, July 7th. Just real quick. Need to throw this up there. Go. This is how you get a hold of me if you're interested. Tradeandperform@gmail.com. Okay. So sometimes you don't need a chart to see where support and resistance is, right? So see this nice little block right here on ES? See how we can't close underneath that 38.53, let's just call it 38.50 area. So as long as we hold above that, see that's consolidation, right? That means you're breaking off that consolidation. So underneath, this structure will become resistance. And then you can see how poorly auctioned it is to the left. That's off a 20 tick ES chart. Pretty easy to see, right? Which is why I said I wouldn't want to short. We didn't even blink off that number. And I don't think we have another number coming up of significance. Let me look really quick before I misquote myself. Let's see, we had 7:30 numbers, nothing at 9 o'clock. Crude oil at 10 o'clock. Bullard speaks at 12, and that's it. Relatively quiet day, right? So there is no more econ coming up online, right? So that's the first thing that I saw. And then the next thing that when you look at, you can kind of see, like when you push this out to a bigger time frame, you can just see we're in this channel over here. And bigger picture, right? Like if you're bearish, first of all, you got to close back in underneath 38.47. Again, that 53, let's just call it 53.47 once we add a little bit, few more details. You can see they try to trap. They try to set up a head and shoulders here. They failed so far. So you've got to get into these 38. So what you want to write on your journal, right? So all this is about perspective of where everything can go or is going and how that works, right? That's how we make our judgments as to where we think we can have bigger trades. And so one of the things that's hard about that is, well, how do I know? Like, for example, I can be bearish and think it's going to retest that 37.51. So you got to look at them as locks on a channel, right? Meaning on a river channel, right? There's locks that open and close and let the water flow either upriver or downriver, as the case may be, right? I don't know how they engineer the upriver thing, but whatever. There are locks on a channel, right? So you can see that this formed a wedge right here. They try to break it out once. This is the second time, and then you see this really tight consolidation. Big moves tend to come off of really tight consolidations, and that's on a big charts, 20 ticks, right? Looking further back, right, you can see that we've kind of done this triple bottom down here, and we've gotten above. If you look back to the top end of this consolidation area, it was kind of here to here, right? That 35.18 to 35.32, right? And then we've done this tight consolidation off. So first of all, there's buyers down here, and anyone who's sold down here right now, they're trying to trap, and particularly look at the size of that down wave where they pushed all the way to the low, and we're about to get above that wave. Now, that does not mean we have to go straight up when that occurs, but the possibility is there, right? And if you look, right, if you look at this, we also have put in a higher low for the 50-60 retrace, right? So this is all about constructing structure, not so much for our intraday, but so that we understand what the market's doing, so that you have a way of coming off as, oh, I'm really bearish, or, oh, I'm really bullish, right? So if you look at this was the low. This is the 50-60 retrace. We came right to the 62 and responded off of it. So here's a great question. Well, Simon, if you knew that 62 was there, why wouldn't you just keep buying that? Well, I forget about these time frames, which is why I go through them, right? I'm ADD and dyslexic and everything else, so I really have to narrow my focus down to what's right in front of me, right? But some people can hold these higher time frames in their head really well. What's the competing piece of information here? It's this. So see how this is going to be structured on the other side? So what we need to break out, so what we know, you got to kind of put these pieces together. This is all poorly auctioned down to here, right? That means if we close above 38.68, there is the potential to trend day up through this area and take out all the stops to the left and set this as a left shoulder, right? You can see if we erase this that they tried to set this as a left shoulder over here. See that? They peekabooed above, it rolled down, and it did its job. So this is the other thing that confuses people. You're like, well, damn, Simon, how many patterns are you going to come up with in one chart? Well, as many as necessary, right? I want to understand recognizing the pattern is not the same as going, it's going to do this or it's going to do that. I'm recognizing the potential, right? If I get set up right over here, I'm going to go, hey, potentially, I could take out the stops right down here, right? Because this is the range. So right now, I know that in order to close back into this range here, in order to come down to the bottom of this range, right, on a very high time frame relative to what we trade, the 20 tick, I've got to get below 38.41 definitively. And then obviously there's an additional trend line right there that would have to break. And if that happened, what I'd like to see is something like this. And it could take multiple days to happen and trade down like that, right? I'm not even considering anything more bearish than this because I would expect responses because there's got to be, if someone went long here, it'd be logical to move your stop up here. So I'm going to assume there's stops there, just like if I shorted over here, right? So see how we're putting together multiple pieces simultaneously? Just like when I'm over here, I'm going to assume there's stops over here. Well, they came in, they took the stops, and they pushed, right? But then they set a head and shoulders, which means everyone who shorted here put their stops in. What did they do? They come out and took the stops, dropped to the bottom of the range, took out the stops over here, went back to the top of the range. Now we're trying to arrange whether we're going to come back up and take out the stops up to the left or come back down and revisit this. I'm not even worried about this down here. Isn't even on my radar. It's too far away. We're at 38.74. If we get 100 down, that's 37.70 from where we are right now. If we get 100 ES points, it's about as far as we've stretched and we were really heavy, right? We're at 38.65. That puts us down about 100 points right here if we had a really nasty down day, which is unlikely in front of non-farm payrolls tomorrow. But that would be the downside target. So this would put us 100 to 130 points down. So yeah, I have on my radar big time 37.50. If we do get some kind of nasty piece of news, I'm going to look for longs at the bottom end of that range. I'm not going, oh, we're going to zero. I'm going to go, oh, that's the bottom of the current consolidation. I'm looking for longs. Up here, I want to see how the PA works because I see that ES just, no matter how much NQ goes down, ES just isn't backing off right now. So I want to see if that holds true in the first half hour. And if we get an open drive higher, right? We know what that looks like. Brings me to the conclusion that they're going to attempt to trade this from where we're currently trading. ES is up 18 points. So if I take 18 and I add 30, that puts us at 38.68. Is that right? 38.66. I add another 30. That puts me at 96. Right? Let's just call it a round number. That puts me at 50 for the day. I add another 50. That puts me right here. So those would be my extensions up just based on the current rotations that we've had. I'd have 39.02 and 39.50 as extreme moves. And then that lines up. See how that lines up with bottom of structures right here, roughly. Top of structures right over here. Take out the stops. That gives you 100 up, which we haven't had many 100 up days. So my guess is this 38.93 the 3,900 number. Somewhere in this neighborhood, we could probably find a pretty decent short for a potential rollback down or at least a trade, right? And then on the other side, if I get 50 down, so that's that would be 50 negative. So you take away the 16, pitch you at 50, would pitch you at 3,800 even. So that would be 50 down right here. And you'll notice all the power bars that are sitting there if you move that wider, right? So if you look at 50, you take out all these power bars. There's stops sitting behind there. So somewhere in this neighborhood is the first place I would expect responsive buying because I know the power bars have stops behind them. I take out the stops, pop back up. That would break the channel. So then I'd look for a retrace and a possible retrace into here. 100 down would be 37.50, which would get me right in this neighborhood. And that's kind of hard to believe we're going to have that today, but that would get me 100. Is that right? 38. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. 38.16, 38.50, 37.50. It gets us into this neighborhood. That's 100 down, right? So that kind of gives us the broad view. And then if I look at it from this perspective, right, here's the swing, break off of yesterday's lows. Here's the Globex high. So this 38.01 puts me right between the 50-60. I expect somewhere in this neighborhood, if we push down, to get a responsive buy out of there. That's how I put the bigger picture together without looking at the profile chart, right? So, and at the end of the day, I can see my channel, right? So I know right now, likelihood is, based on what's going on last night, I need one or two things, either an impulse move below where everything turns down, right? So the channel's not magical. What I want is to be able to determine, are we in balance or not in balance? And what am I going to use? The algo setups to help me out in that area. And again, you'll notice this is really important, guys. If this channel breaks down hard, right, the easiest way to find your long, if you get a hard rip like this, wait till you get to the other side of the range, come back down, and you will usually find responsive sellers. Same thing like this. See how it starts to go 20 degrees down? Wait till it gets to the other side of the range, and you can usually find shorts, even though overall it continues in the path, right? You'll see it over and over again. Hard breakdown, other side of the range, and that works on all time frames, right? That's where you'll find, if you're looking to get long, that's the safer place to get long. That generally coincides with a 50-60 retrace in the channel. So there's so many ways for us to determine which way we're going to lean or which way we want to lean. And you should be using those tools, and you should be playing with those tools and going, how does this, how does this work? How does this look when I'm trading? What am I looking for? How am I looking for this, right? And that bigger time frame should come into play, but only as a, I live in Dallas. If I try to explain to someone how to get from the city of Dallas to the city of Frisco, I'm going to bust out a map. I'm going to go, well, generally, right, if this is downtown Dallas and this is downtown Frisco, right, as the bird flies, it's this way, right? Oh, but you know what? This is the Dallas North Tollway, and there's construction on it. So you know what you're going to do? You have to cut over to 75, take 75 over to 121, 121, back over to the Dallas North Tollway, and then down to Frisco, okay? So if you think of it just like that, right, this is your end destination, and there's multiple possible routes to get to that particular destination, right? There's not just one way. There's not just one way. There's not just one way to do it, right? And the thing is, you don't have to know, right? You don't have to know that. You don't have to start on this road, right, and know that there's construction here. But right when you get here, let's say this is the cutoff for another highway, you go, oh wow, look, there's a bunch of red lights here. I think I'll go this way, right, and I'll work my way around. Well, trading's the same thing. You don't have to know. But what I do know is, in general, when I get to the top of these ranges, there's potential for rolls to the other side of the ranges, right? That's what I want to primarily base my ideas, my concepts, and my thought patterns on, right? Is that there's the potential for rolls to the other side of those ranges. In the bigger picture, right, every once in a while I'm going to catch this big time frame, and I'm going to go, oh, look, right? Even if I'm looking for a pattern down here, I can see that in this area, we keep finding responsive buyers. So first thing, I'm going to stop shorting here till we cleanly break this area, and I'm just going to go, I'm looking for longs. Just like I would up here, go, hey, I'm generally looking for shorts when we get up here, which is why when you're getting to the bottom of that channel now, you're finding responsive buyers, right? It's prior support, prior resistance. So down here today, I will not be shorting 38.19 for 37.50, right? What I'll want to see is a break, travel to the other end of the range, and then get a good setup for a push to the bottom of that range. But I will not be shorting here for this. Now, I may short this, right, and go, I'm going to try for a break to the downside and then add when I come back up. But I'm not going to initiate that down here. Again, I'm just using the map that the market's freely providing me for reconnaissance information to make my decisions, right? So next. So right now, the most important immediate piece of information that you can take from the market from the last 10 hours or so is that before we go lower, we're going to have to get a clean close below 38.53. That's what you take away from all that. Right now, 38.53 has to go or there is no lower, right? And naturally, since we know there's already buyers down there that we can tell from the last 10 hours, we might look for a long to pop back to the top end of the range first for a potential balance scenario. Next, we can do that. So I'm going to keep this up here so we can see the map pretty easily on the higher time frame, right? So next we can go look at the same thing on NQ. So this was pretty easy this morning if you were around. This is 4:30. I was long down here, shot for up here. I was short up here, shot for down here. Didn't make it, but I covered early. The econ got in the way. So see when I'm up here, I'm looking for potential, or down here more specifically, I'm looking for longs at 4:30 in the morning that would have set up. 5 o'clock, purple bar, star, right? Oh, purple bar, star. I'm at the bottom end of my larger time frame bands. I'm at the bottom end, purple bar, star. What am I shooting for? The top end. That's my goal. That's it. I'm not trying to do anything more special than that. Then I get to the top of this around 6:50. I get pink bar, purple bar, right? On the 24, I get pink bar, star. I short that. Rolls it down into the number. I cover before the number, and I go away. And then we come down to the bottom. We come back to the top, and that's where we are right now. And we're traveling back to the bottom of the range on NQ. And I don't know which way it's going to go when we get to the open. But that's how I'm gluing those pieces together, and how I can glue those pieces together or look at that without ever coming over here, right, and looking at this chart. Now, what I know additionally from this chart is there's an anomaly that's held all night long at 11.898 to 11.915. Now, you don't have to know all these pieces of information, right? You have to get your radar settled on what you can process, right? I want to repeat that again. Get your hey, Jeff, I forgot to send that to you, buddy. Here, I'm sending it right now. Hold on. You have to replace ID 30. There's ES and NQ just sent and says successfully uploaded. It usually it's been taking about 5 minutes lately. So what I know from this, right, is we're consolidating above this power bar down here. See that power bar? I know that there's where my last sellers are trapped, that I probably get a response out of this area, right? So let me erase my lines, and I know a couple of things in here, right? From this consolidation and from this push off Asia lows, I can look, or let me blow this chart up a little bit. If I look from yesterday's swing low, I'm going to go from the mid-morning swing low instead of the 7:30. You can pick your poison either way. This is my 50-60 retrace. I know that I have a trend line going that looks roughly like this. Right? That 11,869 has to go. And the first time we get underneath the 11,869, I would expect a response somewhere in this area to backside test this structure, right? I can see I'm making higher highs and higher lows. So right now I'd like to take out this swing if I'm looking for a bearish move. I'd like to take out this swing at least, which still requires me to get down into the 50-60, and I'd expect, again, a retrace back up to the backside test and try to recapture this trend line prior to it failing, if it's going to fail, right? I can see that buying is knocked off as we pushed up. This was the biggest push, and all these pushes have had more and more declines in volume. Particularly, notice that we have 1, 2, 3. This is the third push to the high. See how that's 3 declining waves? That is often foretelling that we have a potential roll to the downside, but it's on a very high time frame, so we have more work to do, including breaking this 11,869 at the bottom of this channel. I expect responsive buyers here because it doesn't take a genius to draw that line. And then between this 38 and 802. And also, if you look at the rotation size from the top, if you take 100 down, 11,957 puts you at 11,857. That's just underneath the trend line. So 200 points down would put you at 11,770 roughly, which would put you right back here and also behind each of these power bars. See how I'm not going, oh, this is what's going to happen? I just know when I get behind these power bars, it's likely to get responsive buyers, right? I just know that for a fact. I don't have to go and study it over and over again. I just know that there'll be buyers there. And then I'm going to go to a smaller time frame. That's all I'm going to do. And particularly when I'm in the bottom end of this range, right, on the higher time frame, I'm going to look for clues that will tell me off the lower time frames, right? So I'm not quite there yet. So I would like to see it get a little bit further in, and then I'd like it to set up inside this for a long. What do my longs look like? Purple bar star, pink bar that gets stuffed, right? Triangle up that gets stuffed, triangle down that gets stuffed, and 2-bar combos. Those are my best trades out of that area. And I want to make sure I'm not randomly picking which trades I am taking and which ones I'm not taking. Okay. So I don't have to go and do anything more special than that. If you'll add, in addition to that, your unfair pricing locations, like 38.64, the bottom of unfair pricing from overnight is 38.48 right now. We'll see how that looks after the open, but 38.48, we can sweep that 38.65 down to 38.50, which would line up with support on ES. And on NQ, 11.940 to 11.890. Below that, there's unfair pricing with single prints beginning at 11.860 from overnight. For a pushback up, there's single prints starting at 11.950 on NQ, and then Globex high and Globex low. Okay, so take it step by step, right? I do not have a bias because there's no rotation overnight, right? There's no one who has a particular edge. We are in balance. That's what those charts tell you. We are in balance. Let the trade come to you. When we're the day before non-farm payrolls, plan. You know that they're going to square, meaning get their position squared. No one wants to be overly short or overly long, right? So they don't get squeezed tomorrow. If the number comes out, let's say the employment number comes out weaker than expected, would probably cause a big ass rally, right? Because they're looking for employment to weaken. So I'm not predicting what it'll do, but I know a strong number means that they're going to have a harder time with more interest rate hikes. A weaker number means they don't have to raise as aggressively, and the market will probably welcome that number, right? And in the meantime, we're balanced. We don't have any news to drive the market, so assume you're looking for the edges to push back the other way, and just watch out for open drive higher so you don't get caught off guard. Does anyone have any questions before we get to the open on what I'm looking for specifically to trade on today? Two-bar algos are what I'm looking for. Combos on the edge on the 20 and 24, right? Also watching the 8 for ES setups on the edges. Again, ES is trading right up near its high. Wouldn't shock me zero to see that go open drive higher. I'm not saying it will, just won't shock me if it does. Right? And plus, there's not much standing in the way. Like the best shot the Bears had would have seemed to be the employment numbers. And they could make zero. They made zero progress off of that, right? They made zero progress. And then you'll see I have the bigger structure here on ES, so we can keep an eye on that market as well. I have the other one off here to the left, and I'm taking it one step at a time, right? You can't miss what keeps setting up over and over, right? So don't let your emotion grab the better part of you. Let it come to you. And if it doesn't, go, oh, well, it didn't come to me today. It'll come to me tomorrow. We'll see what she does out of the gate. And that's a wrap on the market preview. So I'll cut that out.